Hello everyone. Today I'm going to teach you guys how to differentiate atoms, elements, mixture, and compound. What is atom? Atom is the simplest substance that made up of three subatomic particles. So, what is these three subatomic particles? So, they made up of proton, electrons, and neutrons. So here is the 3D structures of an atom that I draw out. So you guys can see in the center of the atoms, we call it as nucleus. Inside, we got the red color and also orange color. So red color indicates that protons, orange color indicates that neutrons. And the center of the atoms, they are always remain as positively charged. While this blue color, we call it as electrons. These electrons are tends to move freely around the oval-shaped place here. So this oval-shaped place, we call it as orbitals, shells, or in energy levels. So now you are going to learn about what is the difference between these protons, electrons, and neutrons. Based on these three subatomic particles, the symbol for protons, we call it as P. The symbol for electrons, we call it as E. And the symbol of neutrons, we call it as N. The mass for each of the subatomic particles, as for proton, is 1, same as neutron also 1. And the electrons contain 1 over 1,840. Or you also can be seen 1 over 1,836. So electrons is the lightest subatomic particles among the protons, neutrons. Okay, so that's why it can move around freely in the orbital. As for the charge, you can see proton is always positively charged and neutron is always neutral. As for the electrons is negatively charged. The location that where the proton locate, you can see it is inside the nucleus, which is the center of the atoms, and the protons and the neutrons together with the proton inside the nucleus of the atoms. So that's why the center of the nucleus is always remain as positively charged. So, and the atom is always neutral. Why atoms remain as neutral? Because the positively charged in the nucleus and the negatively charged in the electrons can be cancelled out. So it will left over neutral. So always remember that the atom is neutral. Okay, now we're going to see what is atoms also. So you can see atoms is actually made up and elements. So based on this picture, you can see there are a lot of helium atoms made up a complete helium elements. So you can see a lot of the helium, which is a lot of this structure of helium atoms. Okay, they together to form a complete helium elements. So this is atoms. So now we are going to see about elements. So what is element? Element is the simplest indivisible substance. So what is meant by indivisible? It means cannot be. So indivisible means cannot be divided. So in conclusion, we know that this element is a very simple thing which is cannot be divided. Okay, so as we learned just now what is atoms, we know that same types of atoms made up and elements. So that's why these elements in definition, it is made from only one types of atoms. So all the key points I have been highlighted. Okay, and then based on the periodic table, actually all of the things or any things that inside the periodic table, we can call it as elements. Okay, can be found in the periodic table. Okay, this element can act as a solid, liquids, or gas. So let me give an example for you. as we know that group 1, group 2, group 3 is belong to metal, right? So that's why these metals will remain as a solid state. So that's why element can be solid also. Okay, for liquid, so let's give you an example. So let's say the chlorine. Okay, chlorine liquids are going to pour inside the swimming pool to kill the bacteria. So it is a type of liquid that you can find in the periodic table, which is at a element. As for gas, you can see there is an argon gas, which is you can find in the group 8. So that's why in country we can say that elements can exist as solid, liquids, or gas in periodic table. Okay, so now we are going to learn about more further for elements. As you know that everything is elements, right? But there are 4 types of elements in periodic tables. So which is a metal, belong to group 1, group 2, group 3, or we can call it as group 13. Okay, non-metals, group 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And semi-metals, also known as metalloid, can act as a metals or non-metals. As for transition metals, it is in between the group 12 and, group 2 and group 13. So these transition metals, they are 3 properties. They can form color compound, okay, which is more than 1 types of color when they have the different charges. They also can form many oxidation number. What is mean by oxidation numbers? So it can be +1, +2, +3. So this one we call it as oxidation number. And then they also can form a very complex compound. So these are the summary of elements. So now we are further go to mixture. Okay. Mixture, what is mixture? As we learned just now previously, atoms and elements, you already can master and you're already very clear about these two, right? So we are going to see mixture. This mixture is made up of 2 or more elements which will physically combine together. Okay, what you understand about physically combine? Physically combine means these are the physical methods. So first one, you can use the decanting method. Okay, chromatography method, evaporation method, distillation method, filtration methods, or you can use the Manak method to separate the mixture. So besides this, okay, mixture also can be physically separated as what I said just now. Okay, and they are of course not chemically combined because they're already physically separated. So mixture, they have the same property as a substance in it. So what is the meaning for this? Let's say, so if you are using the salt crystal, okay, together with the hot water, salt crystal have the salt properties, right? So hot water has the water properties. So when this salt crystal mixed together with the hot water or dissolved inside the hot water, it will become a salt water. So this salt water properties is actually same like the crystal plus hot water. So there is nothing changed about their properties. So this is the meaning of same properties as the substance in it. Okay. As for the amount of substance can be changed. So just now I already said how much salt crystal that you use to dissolve in how much hot water, you also will get salt water. So the contain, the amount, the volume, how much you use, eventually you also will get back the salt water. So this one is doesn't related to the amount. So that's why this amount of substance can be changed. Okay, so these are the example of the mixture. So let's say like the salt water, okay, and sugar solution, and a sand water. Eventually, you also can get back the same content. So they have no difference with their properties and also amount. Okay, so we done our mixture part. Going to compound. So what is so different about this compound? Okay. Compound is made up of 2 or more elements which is chemically combined together. So chemically combined is what meaning? So means this element in the compound can be separated by using the chemical method. Okay, so this chemical method will be electrolysis. So what is meant by electrolysis? Let's recap. Okay, it is the separation of compounds into their individual elements when the electric current is flowed through it, which means the compound positively charged ions and negatively charged ions can be separated when you are using this electrolysis process. This process is only workable on compound, but not mixture. Okay, so now the compound properties, which is cannot be physically separated as what I mentioned just now. They are chemically combined, of course. They are chemically combined. Okay, so what is the different properties as a substance in it? Okay, so what is meant by this? Let's say you are going to make a compound, right? So you are using the hydrogen atoms and oxygen atoms. Let's say originally hydrogen atoms, they have their own properties which is used for the rocket fuel. Okay, but oxygen had its own properties also used for respiration or breathing for all the living things. So these two different things when they mix together. So let's say you are using 2 hydrogen and you are using 1 oxygen, it will become water. So water will be a totally different properties as compared to individual elements here. So that's why we call it as different property as a substance in it. Okay, so for the compound, if let's say this is the amount of substance cannot be changed. Why it is say like that? Because you see, if you're trying to make a sulfur dioxide, you are required to use 1 sulfur atoms and 2 oxygen atoms in order to make sulfur dioxide. So if you change the number of sulfur atoms and also the number of oxygen atoms to be mixed together, maybe at the end you will only get sulfur monoxide or sulfur trioxide instead of sulfur dioxide that you want, which means we cannot change the number of atoms that we want to make. So if you want to make carbon dioxide, you need to use 1 carbon and 2 oxygen in order to make carbon dioxide. So here is the summary that I want to emphasize today, which is the difference between atoms, elements, mixture, and compound. Thank you, everyone.